performance is linked to well-being and health, then everyone's going to agree that when people work on their health and their well-being, that the performance is going to increase. The role of emerging technology in the field of extreme medicine is a fast developing area, and an area that currently there's no status quo of how emerging technologies are being used in this area. And one of the mainstays, or the key ways emerging technology is being used, is point of care diagnostics. In extreme medicine, of course, you're in situations that you don't have all the equipment you need. You're often traveling, you're in environments that are quite desolate, but possibly, or you could be 100,000 feet in the air, or underwater, or in the desert, or in the jungle. So you need devices that can give you results immediately, without the connection to a laboratory or a university. And we're seeing great developments there. There's a lot of money being pumped into point of care diagnostics. For example, you need to review someone's blood work, or review someone's breathing, or their ECG. So diagnostics, we're seeing a lot of advanced reports being able to be reported from an actual mobile phone, or technology the same size of a mobile phone. For example, a portable ultrasound machine, which you can do a lot with if you know how to use it in an environment where you don't have a laboratory or the equipment you have in a hospital. So point of care diagnostics is a really important way emerging technology being used in extreme environments. Another way is data science. So my specific specialty area of technology is health data science. What is health data science? Health data science is using data, heterogeneous data, different types of data, and finding and exposing information that are going to be helpful to your goal or to your objectives. And of course, that's a very broad remit, but it's the opportunity now is that we're getting so much data from so many different areas. How do we make the most of it, especially when it comes to healthcare? And we're finding a lot of valuable findings in this area. So what does that mean for extreme medicine, or extreme environments? So specifically in extreme environments, there's lots of variables to think about. For example, the weather, someone's vital signs, their past medical history, and perhaps other variables that make them who they are, if it's a patient in an extreme environment. And bringing that information all together to make the best decision for them is essentially data science. We're looking at research. What does the research say? What do they want? So a softer aspect, what's going to be acceptable to them, to help them achieve their goals or to remain fit in that environment. And lastly, what does the data say in terms of how most people have responded to what we're advising to give them in terms of treatment or supplementation, or in terms of the plan. So data science, taking the data from the environment, so data input, data review, data processing, and then outputting an answer that's going to help our objective in that extreme environment. So data science is an important emerging technology for these extreme environments. And it's an area that also looks at human optimization. So pushing the limits of the human body. We're dealing with essentially extreme athletes, extreme pushing their bodies to the limit, which understanding how a well-trained human being responds in different environments is very different to understanding how a human being that isn't trained responds to different environments. And not just that, but how they push themselves to reach their potential, which is a very fine line, which can cross over into a dangerous a dangerous situation for them health-wise. As a speaker, I bridge the gap between data-driven insights and well-being strategies by keeping a focus on holistic well-being, and that is essentially looking at the different areas of well-being and how they fit together. Not just that, but how they fit together for someone's specific personal objectives and what they want out of life, which is different for all of us. And then also adding the third aspect of performance. I think it's really important to acknowledge that we all want to perform well, whether it's at work or personally, and that can make us happier, and that's part of our well-being. It's not just a case of performance is one thing, well-being is another. I think they're very much connected. So the term, the phrase well-being for performance is a term I like to use a lot when it comes to forming well-being strategies. So the domains of well-being I like to boil things down to are sleep, exercise, nutrition, mental well-being and mindfulness, and thirdly and fifth, lastly, health, and how these domains actually fit together, which is different for all of us. And some of them are going to be more important for some of us than other domains. For example, if someone's very much a knowledge worker and you have to use their creativity a lot. For example, if someone works in media and they're in the creative department for a media company, a lot of their value at work and also personally is going to come down to their creativity and how they can translate their ideas in their brain, which can be somewhat very metaphysical, so very hard to put down on paper. The performance relies on how well they do that and how well they can communicate those ideas. So clear thinking, focus, concentration. So the domains that are going to be, of course, important to them is, of course, sleep. Sleep is going to be very important to them. Focus, so exercise, nutrition, and being happy, so they can actually, execute, as opposed to someone whose job is a lot more physical. And of course, all these domains are important, but to different degrees as well. So it's forming that strategy, and lastly, empowering each person to be more aware of what's important to them in terms of their well-being. So yeah, as a speaker, my focus when it comes to giving value to my listeners and my viewers is to empower them to be more aware of what's important for them, and to empower them to form strategies that are going to have longevity for them in the future, so they can continue to increase their performance, as opposed to getting motivated and excited after hearing a talk, but then coming away a few weeks after not having much from the talk itself. So, building long-term strategies that people can grow and continue themselves based upon their holistic well-being, and strategies that have longevity. The biggest cause for poor health and poor well-being in the workplace is culture. Company culture, societal culture, personal culture is a massive cause of poor health and well-being. Right now we're in an age of mass consumerism, mass media, and mass consumerism and mass media isn't designed to keep us healthy, or it's not good for our well-being. So we consciously need to be working against it personally and as organizations to optimize people's well-being and their health, because that's not only good for them, but it's good for the organization, and it's also good for society. So we have these two opposing forces. So the question is, how do we do that? And I think that the personal will or organizational drive to prioritize culture that is good for well-being and good for health is what needs to be focused on now. So, and I don't think organizations are doing that. It's not easy, but it needs to be done. So how do they do that? I would say it comes down to in everything. The culture, it seeps into everything. that we do as people and that organizations do, the way we speak to each other, the way the architecture of the office, the priorities of the company. And if the culture is in the right place, we're going to see signs of a priority of well-being and health being in everything. For example, allowing people to exercise, allowing people to have good posture, whether they're sitting down or standing up, keeping them happy, the food that's available in the office, and all the small details that can easily be overlooked. So, and how do we embed that culture? I think it comes down to making sure that the key decision makers and the leaders have that as a priority in their mind, and it's part of their culture. Because the leadership, we have the trickle down theory, where the leaders in any organization, their culture makes the culture of the organization. So I think leaders, if that's not part of their culture, they need to focus on that and figure out how to make it part of the way they think. And I think that's the best place to start. We could talk about more specific things when it comes to combating these causes of poor well-being and health in the workplace. But I think if we start with culture, you can't go far wrong. Companies and organizations can promote a healthy well-being and lifestyle by linking health and well-being to performance, because they are inherently linked. The healthier you are, the better your well-being, the better you're going to perform. And if we link those two in a concrete way that people understand and is very obvious to be thought about and agreed on, and there's a consensus within the organization that that's the case, performance is linked to well-being and health, then everyone's going to agree that when people work on their health and their well-being, that the performance is going to increase. And performance isn't just for the organization's development or growth, it's also for the employees and the staff members, because when people are doing better at what is a massive part of their life, their work, then they're going to be happier. We talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. One of the key philosophies or ideologies when it comes to happiness. Towards the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. Achieving one's potential and thinking how they can influence the world in a positive way. And being health, well-being, and looking after ourselves is a massive part of that. You can't overlook it. Of course, that's one of the fundamental steps.